Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the AASSH conference, Community in the Time of Pandemic. We do hope that you had both an enriching and an encouraging experience during the course of yesterday evening's contributions, especially that from Tom Wright. In a few moments we're going to have an act of worship led for us by the students and staff of the Open Academy in Norwich. But I'd like to take you through the programme for today before we go. At 10 o'clock this morning, we're going to have the annual general meeting, during which we will elect new officers for the forthcoming year, and we also will be taken through the financial statements for the past year by Richard. At 10:15, Nigel Genders, the Chief Education Officer of the Church of England, is going to speak to his brief, which is the education landscape in the time of pandemic, and added to that, its implications, of course, for Church of England schools. Now, although that's scheduled to start at 10:15, our Zoom invitation suggests that it's at 10 o'clock. But don't worry about that. Just arrive somewhere between 14 minutes past 10, and we'll let you into the room. At 11:15, we have a break for an hour. That break's there to give you a chance to have some refreshment, to take your eyes off a screen, to sit around, have a cup of coffee, potentially to contemplate, but also, if you wish, to wander around your school if you're in it. And then we return at 12:15. At 12:15, we have a topic, rebuilding community in schools, during which some of the members of AASSH will take us through some of the reality of the pandemic in the schools that we lead, and they will tell us about some of the things that they've done to overcome or mitigate it. And then we finish the morning sessions at 1:15, when we have a break for lunch, and that break is 45 minutes long. So do return at about 2, but we'll let you know exactly what's happening at 2 o'clock and beyond for the rest of the conference. But now we're going to do what we normally do on a day of the conference, which is to open in prayer. So let us pray. Gracious God, stay with us with your enabling spirit, guiding us as we lead our students towards your kingdom. We accomplish in our lifetime only a fraction of the magnificent work of your creation. We lay foundations that will need further development. We plant seeds that one day will grow. We water seeds already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We provide yeast that produces effects far beyond our capabilities. This is what we are about. We cannot do everything, and we feel liberated by this realization. Our work may be incomplete, but it is a beginning, a step along the way, an opportunity for your grace to enter and do the rest. Keep us faithful to your mandate to love and serve others as your Son, Jesus, has taught us. Amen. And now we hand over to the staff and students of the Open Academy, Norwich, to lead us in worship.
Hello, we want to welcome you to our assembly today. Over lockdown, we received a piece of writing from a student in our school. In this writing, she describes the way that she feels and also how many of us have been or are feeling right now. This piece is called Sophie's Story, and it talks about vulnerability. To be vulnerable means to be able to be easily, physically, emotionally, or mentally hurt. This pandemic has made so many of us feel this way. The good news is that no matter how we are feeling, God's voice has an answer to every vulnerability or situation that we face. Through the Bible, there is a solution to everything when God speaks. His voice truly does make the difference. As we unpack Sophie's story today, you will see words written in purple. These are God's words said over us, providing answers and encouragement to us all. Let us start off with a song which is called You Say. God bless you all.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Ooh, oh, you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short. And when I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe the only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Ooh, oh, you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short. When I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe. Taking all I have and now I'm laying it at your feet. You'll have every failure, God. You'll have every victory. Ooh, oh, you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short. When I don't belong, oh, you say I'm yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe, oh, I believe, yes, I believe what you say of me. I believe.
I don't know whether I'm lucky or unlucky, whether I walked under a ladder or found a four-leaf clover.
God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work.
It's an unusual situation to be in. Suddenly, there's an entire year group of children who are lost.
I will never leave you. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose.
Most of us didn't get a last day to say goodbye to our friends who we have spent 5 years growing up alongside. Didn't get to prove ourselves to the world in something which will loom over us for the rest of our lives.
My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. For when I am weak, then I am strong.
On the other hand, all stress from GCSEs, the loss of so much time to revision, all gone with one instant announcement.
God is my refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though these waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging.
However, this can be mirrored so quickly it barely feels like a positive. All the revision, all the fear wasted. We may not have experienced the real GCSEs, but mock exams have been drilled into us since we have entered the school system.
Count it all joy when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Let's join together in prayers for our vulnerability. Say the words together written in black, and I will say God's promises over us in purple. For God has not given me a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Do not be afraid or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I have the mind of Christ. No weapon forged against me will prosper. Our steps are ordered by God. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle and recorded each one in your book. This I know, God is on my side. With God, all things are possible. We now have two testimonies from our community. Mr. Ford, our Open Academy principal, and Mr. Cedric Anselin, a football coach, mental health ambassador, and ex-professional footballer. They will really encourage you with their stories.
Good morning. So in order to talk about my own vulnerability, I need to introduce a little, and it's quite a story to pack into a small period of time. So I'm just going to go a quick sprint through a presentation that I gave to 300 students at Brunel University in October 2016 to encourage them to apply for university. They were all pupil premium students, and the idea was to try to motivate them to carry on with their studies. I'll skip the first 10 slides or so that were just painting the picture about what my upbringing was like, and get to the bit where I started to introduce the idea that I had had a lot of help from a lot of people. And I genuinely believed, right up until about year 9, that most kids had a teacher turn up and give them bags of fruit every couple of weeks, because that's what Mr. Cropley, bless him, used to do for my family. And I just thought that's something that everybody got. And then it happened at 16 years old, chucked out of home. No particular great reason. My family was falling apart and it was time to go. But it was challenging, and I ended up spending 3 months living on Davenport railway station. Why Davenport station? It was up the road from me, and there was a heater in there in the waiting room, which if you pressed it, you got 15 minutes of warmth. And given it was just after Christmas, it was pretty cold. Although I am proud of the fact that while I did my A-levels, I was also the dry goods storeman at Sovereign Chickens. So I think I'm one of the very few head teachers who also has a forklift truck licence, although it is lapsed now. I worked all the way through university as a storeman. I had temporary jobs working in the cinema when I first left, and also as a bin man. I have done that, which was a back-breaking job, can I tell you? But I am really proud that I graduated, and my friends seen here, this is not my family, the two ladies on my right are the ladies who ran the news agent I used to open up for at 6 o'clock every morning, and the couple are Pete the porter and his wife, who insisted on taking me to the Grand when I graduated. They said it was vitally important that I got the big long cloak and the funny hat, and they wanted to take me out. It was a really a wonderful moment for me. Graduated by PGCE at Christchurch College, Canterbury, and at the end of that experience, my final period of homelessness, complicated story, but a broken, failed relationship and a large debt meant I was back in the car for 3 months. On qualification, I was really fortunate to get a job as a science teacher in Hastings. But I'd been motivated to give something back, so I applied to do VSO. However, where did I get sent? The Republic of Maldives. It was quite a wonderful placement. So on the following few slides, I just thought I'd show what life was like teaching and training teachers in paradise. So, after a wonderful time in VSO Maldives, I came back and resumed my career. Lots of great jobs in great schools. Worked my way up through assistant head teacher, deputy head teacher, and finally became a head. I absolutely loved it. And in an interesting twist of fate, it wasn't deliberate, didn't really realise until I came to put the presentation together. The house that we ended up buying and living in is an old disused railway station. So from starting off in Devonport railway station as a homeless person, I now own one. I've been fortunate to do some fantastic things, including the opening ceremony of the Paralympics, having some flying lessons, swimming with dolphins, getting married to my wonderful, having an awesome child, just the pinnacle of my career, being invited to the Palace for the Queen's Garden Party. I was also on the audience panel for BBC. Just an amazing set of it. So that's the presentation I'd given to 300 pupils. How wonderful was education? How brilliant was my story? How fantastic was everything? And then, wow, what happened? And then what happened? All of a sudden I wasn't working. It's one of those situations where I can't talk about it and you can't ask about it. But one day I was at work and the next day I wasn't. My average 60-hour week suddenly turned into a 0-hour week, and it was shocking. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to do. I was totally and utterly lost. You've just seen in the presentation that went before how much I defined myself through education and the purpose of education, how the story was neat and complete. There wasn't another chapter. It was carry on to do this until, well, whatever. But no, all of a sudden I was lost completely and really didn't know what to do. At first it was in denial. I went off, I watched England play cricket in India for a few weeks and tried to bury my head in the sand. I think as much to get myself from under my wife and son's feet, because I wasn't very nice to live with. I was very challenging to be around. But amazingly, on my return, my friends came through for me and I'd got a consultancy. I was back in another trust. Great job, and everything was going absolutely fine. And for the first 8 weeks, fantastic. And then I got a call to go and see the CEO to talk about a permanent job. And well, fantastic. And then I was invited up to the trust to talk to the CEO about a permanent role, and I had a panic attack like you wouldn't believe. Couldn't move, couldn't do anything, didn't know where to put myself, and didn't even leave the house for the next 4 months or so. It was shocking. Just the most scary, unpleasant time of my life, because I genuinely didn't think I could do school anymore. I thought that was it, and I didn't know that I was ever going to be able to come back from it. Obviously I went to the doctors to get some help, to get some tablets, and after 3 rounds of different tablets getting iller and iller, the doctor told me, unfortunately, I suffered from a thing called neuroleptic malignancy syndrome, which means you can't take antidepressants. When you've finally admitted to yourself that you need help and support, that's not a good thing to hear, and I was pretty desperate. And I've done a photograph of a driveway, because at this time in my life the only thing that I could do was lie on my drive and pick weeds out of it. It was a pretty weed-free drive, but it's not a way of living. And gradually I started to accept where I was. I started to say, well, if I have to garden, then gardening is what I do. Obviously you can see I put the same amount of effort into it as I did with all things to do with education, but started to find the joy in the things that were around me. And I was very, very fortunate that people were around me, there for me. That's David Pollock, old local authority chum, was there when my school went into special measures years before, just as I started, was there for the school, and amazingly was there for me to teach me how to fish when there was very little else I could do apart from sit and look at the river. An amazing man, and I genuinely believe a gift. And after so much time, you know, kind of getting my head together, I did finally get a job. I became, again, a principal of Open Academy. And just as everything was going fantastic, I put my shoulder out in my first half term, and I could hardly move. I had to have a couple of weeks off. While I was there at home, Ofsted came in. It was challenging for the school, and I got really panicky that I wasn't going to get better fast enough, and I started getting all sorts of secondary symptoms to the damage in my shoulder. I was very, very fortunate that a great neurosurgeon, after about 4 or 5 weeks, took me to one side and said, your neuritis is improving physically, but your mental health is going backwards very rapidly. You really need to start getting a grip on your mental health. I didn't know, I'd never heard the term overbreathing, but I was starting to recognise signs of physical anxiety again, and it was quite frightening that I thought, just after all this effort of trying to get back, I was suddenly going to lose my job again. But this time I took the advice. I used meditation techniques and prayer. The No Panic website was fantastic, as was my local church, and so many other things that helped calm me down. And by Christmas I was well and truly back on the mend. So I'm putting the joy of Christmas because I think I finally learned to live with my mental health conditions. I still suffer from panic feelings sometimes, and I'll just take myself off, do some deep breathing and calm down. But at this point I just have to reflect. I am thankful every single day for all the wonderful opportunities that I've had. So really what I need to be thinking is how thankful I am about everything from being a child and all the wonderful stuff that people did for me as a child, and now as an adult, how people have supported me. So I think of all the fantastic communities of head teachers, my family, the local church, this school, all the wonderful communities that have helped put me back together again, and I will do everything I can for this community because it's done everything it has for me, all of those communities, and I thank the Lord for the gift that He has given me in all of these people, and all the love and support that they've given me. to get me back to where I am now. So thank you for joining me today. So first of all, I wonder if you could tell me, what was life like as a professional footballer? Perhaps some of the highs.
Well, obviously my highs starting a very early stage in my football career. I think at 17 I played the final UEFA Cup against Bayern Munich. I think the quarterfinal we play against AC Milan. So I play at San Siro in front of 80,000 people at 17. So yeah, my career starting a very high peak, and in '99 I won the French league as well with Bordeaux. So I've achieved quite a lot at a very early stage of my football career, playing with some icons, French footballers, like Zinedine Zidane and Christophe Dugarry and Lizarazu and Wiltord and Thierry Henry, because obviously I was a French international under 18 and 20. So yeah, it's obviously unbelievable feelings, unbelievable memories. I still have my medals. So yeah, it's very, very. I've achieved what I wanted to achieve as a very young boy who had a dream, and but I put every effort, every hours after training, before trainings, to try to reach my dreams, and I'm privileged and honored to say that I've done it.
That's wonderful. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit then about how did things change, and what effect that had on you?
Well, there's a lot of triggers of things changed, obviously, starting early and had so much successful at early stage in my football career. And I always said, when you start, with high, like I did, where everything happens so quickly in terms of success, it's only one way. It can only go down. But again, I think it's the football industry one that is, they promise you a lot of things. They give you an education of being a winner, but they don't give an education of, if something happened that, an example, the manager don't really want you and part of his plans, how can you react from that? And unfortunately with me I moved from France to England, a different culture, a different way of playing, different language. I was living on my own here, and after a year I found it difficult with the pace of the game, got a lot of injuries, and the manager I was not really part of his plan, and that was the big trigger for me, is when I sat down with the manager and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, but part of my plan, I've never really faced sort of that comments before in my life," felt a bit rejected in a lot of different ways.
So what was it like being vulnerable then, perhaps for one of the first times in your life?
Well, it's difficult because my background of my football career is the industry where it's very, very brutal in a lot of different aspects. Again, I was not educated. It was hard to deal with it, and I didn't know how to deal with it. Coming to a training session in the morning, just locking myself in my car, in the car park, and crying because I was not in a good place to perform. I was not in a good place to train. And we're talking in 90s football where you couldn't knock in the gaffer's door and explain your feelings about depression and anxiety and mental health or your well-being. Was not very a big stigma at the time to being able to mention on the table to your teammates as well. And again, is the industry, it's a bit macho. You have to be strong every day, and so I didn't find easy to talk. I kept everything to myself, and again, it's just affected my life and affected my football career, affected my family, affected me as a human being. So it was difficult, as I just mentioned before game, to lock yourself in a bathroom and don't want to play because you fear to do something wrong or bad pass or mistakes, and you are in the public eye where everything is being put very easily and quickly on the newspapers and things like that. But yeah, it was difficult to deal with at that time.
So it sounds like you've been really at rock bottom. So how did you begin to find some peace? How have you kind of made your way out of that?
The peace was in life sometimes you have something you need to break. It's like you need to snap a branch to make you realize that you need to move forward. And the unfortunately with me was my wife leaving me. That was a trigger to think, okay, I need to move forward. I need to get the help. But the biggest step for me was to be able to trust someone and speak about my feeling, my emotion, what was going through my head, because I have a lot of negative and dark thoughts. And again, is when you're starting to reach out and speak, you feel a lot better straight away, and you build step by step, and I call them baby steps every day. And then baby steps for you probably think that is a small step, but it's actually a big steps. So I've reached out by talking a lot more, and trust was a big factor for me, and I've started to speak a lot more to my best friends, and then from there I obviously, because of my background being a footballer, I've opened a lot of different doors. So I've done a lot of articles, medias, TVs, and even to these days I talk about every day. It's a battle of every day, and I fight every day. Is what it's all about. Is moving forward in life. And I always said we are born, and the first things you learn when you move forward, you do your first few steps, is you do your first few steps forward. We are not born to walk backwards, and life is about looking forwards, and it's what I do on a daily basis.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Cedric. I wonder if you could just mention some of the communities that you draw support from and how the communities have supported you.
Well, obviously, I work at the Open Academy. I've been here for 6 years, and it's a very tight community, in school and outside the school. My student, myself, here, I've been very supportive to the past 6 years, sorry now. And it's just, it just gives me so much satisfaction to come and help and talk to the community about my private life. And I live in a small county in Norfolk where everyone know each other a little bit, and everyone know about my past and my situation and my life. And I try to give every day to the community, and it's what it's all about. Is more we get together, more we get stronger, and the community here, the students will face some obstacle in their life, but if we can give them skills to even to open and talk, is what it's all about.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Cedric.
I'm starting to wonder when the backdrop of my four walls is going to become stale, begin to cultivate that stagnant silence found in untouched attics.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight.
I sit in this room day after day. My entire being is tired of this haphazard junkyard filled with childhood memories and hobbies.
God is in this place, and I didn't even know it. Be still and know that I am God.
I slink back from going out of my haven as if a lightning bolt will be struck from the sky.
When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you.
I sleep, eat, work, breathe. I live in this room.
Be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the ends of the earth.
And when I brave the outside world, I cower in fear at the sight of people, anxious of catching the virus, but more than that too.
Fearful I'll break some new, unspoken social rule, or will be judged for standing too far back awkwardly as they stroll by.
Fear not, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yet somehow this virus has also given me an odd sense of freedom. I have time to work on things at my own pace, to focus my opportunities, to learn on topics I love rather than a rigid exam syllabus, to wear clothes which make me happy, to gradually improve my confidence with little quirks social distancing has brought.
Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial. Because he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. In closing, let's say together the prayer that Jesus taught us to pray, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Thank you for joining with us today. And our prayer is for you that you would always hear God's voice through every situation, through every circumstance, that his promises and the truth will always speak to your hearts and your minds. You are all in our prayers. God bless. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.
The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen.
pray a blessing, manna rain down from heaven. This isn't second guessing, we know that we are protected. May the peace that surpasses all understanding be our message. Grace and favors in your nature, in your essence.
May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children.